you. So good morning, everybody. Happy Monday. We all made it through the new moon, yes? No? Maybe? Good. So we've got a lot to cover, and I just want to let you guys know ahead of time, first of all, that if you want to see a written form of this week's energy report, and you want to watch the video that goes along with it, you can visit my Clubhouse page. It's KarenCurryParker.club. There's a whole bunch of stuff on there, including information about our upcoming annual Human Design Conference. That is September 10th through the 12th, live in Colorado Springs, but also live streamed. And I want to just let you know something, because I don't know how you guys are, but I'm zoomed out, and I don't really have a choice to be zoomed out, because I talk to you guys, a lot of you guys, on Zoom all day long. And I know a lot of people are just tired of watching things on Zoom. So I do want to let you know that if you choose to attend conference live stream, you don't have to come the whole weekend. You can come watch some events live if you want to, and then you can watch the replays and space it out so that you're not overwhelmed with sitting in front of a screen all week or all weekend. I also want to just say, I don't know if you guys can see in the audience, Clarinda Mann is joining us. And Clarinda's going to be here speaking, doing our keynote at conference. She's going to be there Friday night sharing her amazing work that is based on the astrology of slavery and racism. She's going to be talking about where we're headed next and the themes we need to be exploring about slavery and racism through the lens of astrology and human design. I had the great honor of talking to her recently, just kind of getting a sneak peek and a preview of what she's going to be talking about and some of the work that she does. She has an incredible program called Break the Chains, where she's actually walking people through a process of clearing some of the trauma of racism and how it impacts us. So do come to hear Clarinda. It's going to be an amazing event. And I think I'm so excited that she's going to be opening this event, because I think we have some great people coming who have a long history of human design. And I think Clarinda brings the balance of blending the history of where we've been with a forward perspective on where are we headed next with human design. So I'm just excited and honored for all of you to have an opportunity to hang out with Clarinda. We're going to be doing on Saturday at conference a panel discussion on collaboration and the theme of collaboration in modern evolving businesses. Last year, our conference theme was women in human design, and we talked a lot about feminine leadership. And this year we're going to do a little breakout session. It's not a breakout session, it's a panel discussion, and talk about, I think, feminine business and how we do business with feminine leadership. And collaboration, of course, is a key component to that. So it's a good conversation to get us sort of kicked off in our evolution report for this week, because this week collaboration is a big theme. So I'm going to get started, unless there's anything else you guys, Kristen, Cindy, Jamie, is there anything else I need to talk about before we get rolling?
I think you covered it.
Okay, good. I just want to also remind you all, we are recording this. I am about to jump on a plane to go hang out with my business partner and bestie who fell last night and broke her arm. So I'm going to go hop on a plane and cook her some food for the next couple of days and get her set up. So I won't be taking any questions today at the end. I don't know, Kristen, Cindy, Jamie, are you guys going to be taking questions, or are we just going to cut and run today and go back to getting our work done and expanding the impact that we create on the planet? That's a directive not just for my team, but for you guys too.
I'm practicing resourcing, so I'm going to be quiet because I'm a little not quite in alignment with my vitality today. So I will be hanging, but I'm going to be just a quiet support today.
Perfect. All right. That's awesome. So I will make it up to you all next week when we do our evolution report. I will double up and make sure we have lots of time for questions. So, all right, let's get started. So we are, as of the 5th of August, in the third creative quarter of the human design year. I like to call this quarter the quarter of manifestation in quantum human design. So this is the quarter where we're doing the work. It's not so much just harvesting. It's like we're getting ready to really harvest by the end of this creative quarter. As we move into autumn, we'll be really deep in harvesting our dreams, ideas, and really starting to see the fruit of our labors, so to speak. So you guys know I always like to use gardening metaphors, and this is the time of year in my garden, especially when I'm looking at squashes and pumpkins, where I get super excited. So we have this thing in our house. We plant pumpkins in our front yard. And eventually, by this time of year, the pumpkin vines take over the front, and there's very little grass to be seen, and all these little baby pumpkins are coming out. Then they're tiny this time of year, and it's amazing to watch, because by the time we harvest them, October, early November, they're huge, right? But I like the pumpkins as kind of a metaphor for where we are in the creative quarters of the year, because we've done the work of getting the soil ready, we've planted the seeds, we've been tending to the seeds, I've been battling powdery mildew on all my squash plants, and now we're starting to see the fruit. It's not quite time to pick the fruit yet, but we're really starting to actually see evidence that all this work we've been doing is beginning to literally bear fruit. And so as we move into this third quarter, we're really looking at how do we continue the growth that we've cultivated up until this point. And the answer lies in the gate 7. So this quarter always starts with the energy of the gate 7, which is one of the gates of the incarnation cross of the Sphinx. So every creative quarter starts on the incarnation cross of the Sphinx. That is comprised of the gates 1, the gate 13, the gate 2, and the gate 7. So as we start each cycle in the cross of the Sphinx, we get our direction, we get our instructions, if you will, from the planets, from the sun, that tell us what we really need to focus on in this cycle to get the most out of it. So in this cycle, the gate sets the tone. The gate 7 sets the tone for the entire quarter, and it reminds us that we are literally the embodiment of compassion. And through collaboration, we create enough. So the gate 7 reminds us we have to do the work to make sure that we are sustained and sufficiently provided for. And the key to doing that is supporting each other. So I have to go down a little rabbit hole here for a minute, because we've been talking a lot this year and even last year, because these themes have been highlighted in various ways by the planets. We've been talking about leadership. And I want to talk for just a second in particular, not just about leadership, but government, because the human design chart shows that the highest expression of leadership is democracy. Now, for as many of us, you might be rolling your eyes and saying, well, but we're not doing a great job here in America, if you're in America. And I want you all to remember that democracy as an idea is an evolving experiment. So democracy is the terminal gate in the logical circuit, and it's expressed through the G center, the heart of who we are. We forget sometimes that democracy by definition and by its location in the chart, as I said, it's an evolving experiment. It's part of logic. It's always trying to find the pattern and adapt to the pattern, and then we know from the logical circuit that eventually patterns get disrupted. We get the gate 15 comes in and disrupts the pattern and forces us to have to grow again. So democratic leadership is designed to adapt to the changes in patterns and to respond to these changes with compassion. Okay, so the heart of democracy is literally the heart and compassion. So what's so beautiful to me, and of course this is all looking at this theoretically, and something for us to really think about as we strive to grow and evolve our lives and ourselves, there's no circling the wagons or fighting for your fair share in true democracy. And as I say that, I think this is not communism. This is democracy. So there's no battle of egos in democracy. There's no question of service. Do I serve myself or serve others in democracy? True democracy is really us leading ourselves. It's empowerment in its purest expression. Us leading ourselves with compassion. In a democratic government, in a true democratic government, we literally are the government. That comes from the G, right? That's where we be. We literally are the government, and recognized leadership is designed to truly represent its constituents, all of them, all constituents, with compassion. So the Latin root for the word compassion is pati, which means to suffer. And compassion, originating from compati, literally means to suffer with. So compassion brings people beyond sympathy. So democracy brings people beyond sympathy and into empathy. So true democracy realizes that we're not singular individuals, but inevitably we're all in the same boat. And if we haven't learned that yet this year, oh my goodness, or in the last year and a half, oh my goodness, right? We're all in the same boat. We're all under the same sun. We're all living the effects of the same weather patterns. We're all having an adventure with the same virus that spread very quickly across the globe. So, it's a big deal to really recognize that we're all in this together, and that's a key component to understanding why collaboration is so important. We can no longer afford, and I think this is the gift, if you will, of global warming. We can no longer afford to go do our own thing over in our corner by ourselves, because you can't. It's all connected to each other. And, there's no escaping the unity of humanity at this point, which I think actually promises to be pretty profoundly beautiful if we can continue to consciously take an aligned tack with the power of unity and the capacity that we have to come together and make the changes necessary to shift the energy and the trajectory of the world. So this creative quarter, the creative quarter of manifestation, reminds us that we don't have enough until we all have enough. What we gather, we share. When we collaborate and truly see and hear each other, we create more, not less. We lead with our hearts, and we share what we build, because built into democracy is the idea that we are all equally powerful. There's no less than. And certainly I would hope that we can continue to consciously strive towards the manifestation of this idea. Obviously, as I stated, this grand experiment is evolving, and we still have much work to do, but since we're all working on writing new personal and collective narratives, which I'm not going to talk about too much today because I feel like I've been singing that same song for the last 2 months, but just a quick reminder that from now until October, we are literally in a cycle that is inviting us to rewrite our personal and consequently our collective narratives. The experiment of democracy and the evolution of leadership includes the idea that we're all designed to be powerful, to have equal representation, and that we respond to compassion with each other, we lead with empathy, and we increase our power base when we collaborate and share. That's my rabbit hole for today. So I just want you to think about that when you think about democracy and you think about how we want to continue to work and explore ways in which we can come together and lift all of us up together. So, all right. The creative quarter of manifestation includes the potential for answers, for new ideas, for working to physically create enough. There's literally a defined sacral through the 2946 and through the 59.6 in this quarter. It's the literal work of harvesting the gardens of our dreams. The connection to instinct is part of this cycle, this creative quarter, and the intuition to let us know when it's the right time to take action. We have built into this creative quarter the energy for perseverance, determination, devotion, and the importance, by the way, of rest in between the work. So it gives us some interesting lessons and challenges. During the quarter of manifestation, we are inspired and full of big ideas. we see the 6447 and the 4 are all play out in the sun's transits. We get inspired, we get full of big ideas, we get kind of a sneak peek into doing the work of the fourth quarter. These ideas, by the way, don't demand answers. In fact, I would lovingly and gently encourage you to not even worry about the answers. The idea is just to be inspired, but rather to demand that we cultivate a mindset of trust and patience. We might not know how we're going to be bringing these emerging ideas into form, but we are learning to trust that when the time is right, we're going to know what the next right step is. And that's hard for us, right? Because we all want to know what are we supposed to be doing? What's the how? And this quarter is setting us up to move into the next quarter, to start dreaming, to start imagining, to start setting bigger intentions for growth and expansion. And before we do that, start practicing how do we stay in trust and with faith that everything's going to be okay. And the next right step will reveal itself when it's time. So, let's look at the one thing that I think is really also significant about this particular quarter is that all of the gates of the spleen center are highlighted by the sun in this quarter. That challenges us, again, as we kind of move into this place where we're getting ready to really harvest what we've been building. That's challenging us, again, to trust in divine timing. We're learning to not let fear cause us to jump the gun before the timing is right. The energy of this quarter reminds us to simply keep doing the work, even if you can't see evidence of what's coming yet. Even if those pumpkins are still tiny and white, they're going to get orange and huge, right? So don't start picking them and thinking you can go ripen them in the kitchen. That's what my husband does with tomatoes. Drives me crazy. Like, let them ripen on the vine. If we just devote ourselves to what we know must be done, we're going to eventually harvest the rewards of our efforts. That's kind of the theme of this quarter. I'll say the theme of this quarter is collaboration and patience and understanding patterns. Because here's the thing. I wanted to throw this out here because I think this is a really important exploration about being prepared. Because so many times we have a tendency to be responsive in the moment. And that's, of course, important when the moment requires an immediate response. But I think, I've been thinking a lot about, I'm going to go down another rabbit hole just a second. I've been thinking a lot about fourth line profiles and fourth line energy because I'm doing a class on profiles for the Understanding Human Design membership community. And I've been talking about profiles in the I'm Human Design coach mentorship group and mastermind group. And, a lot of my older fourth line profiles, opportunists, they often will say to me, I don't have a problem with limbo. Fourth lines, when they're younger, they don't like limbo. They don't like the unknown. They don't like to have to make a change and not know what's next. And so fourth lines oftentimes build a lot of contingency plans because they need to have backup plans in case their plans fall through because they don't like limbo. But eventually, I think fourth lines, as they mature, develop an understanding of the rhythm and the pattern of change. And so even if they don't know what's next, when they understand the rhythm or the pattern of how to figure out what's next, when they start to understand the rhythm and the pattern of cycles of disruption and cycles of realignment, then the skill set of the fourth line becomes knowing how to change and not always scrambling for to have 686 billion contingency plans. Part of what happens is the fourth line understands patterns. They understand the cadence and the pattern of change, and they practice it. And as they practice it, they get better at it. And there's a certain amount of understanding patterns that's essential for preparation and to be ready. And those patterns actually help us override fear, because now when you're faced with a change, a situation that requires of you that you have to maybe, pivot in short order, when you understand the patterns of change, you know how to pivot That's a skill set, and that's an immutable skill set, right? That's an immutable skill set that you can bring with you as you continue to mature. You know, I watched the movie Free Solo this weekend. I don't know if you've seen this movie. Terrified the bejeebers out of me because this kid, this young man, basically free climbs without a rope El Capitan in Yosemite. So I don't know. It's a great movie. You should watch it. It's amazing movie, but terrifying if you're a mother. Especially, I have a kid that is very much like the kid that was in this movie. So it was a very terrifying movie in that respect. But one of the things that he did was before he solo climbed this giant wall of rock is he practiced for years. He went and practiced with a rope, thank God, right? Until he felt confident enough that he knew the pattern of the wall enough that he could do it without the rope. And I think that's a really good metaphor for us in this cycle, in this, not just in this current cycle, but even in this cosmic cycle that we're in. The more practice we get at pivoting, the more we start to understand the cadence and the pattern of change and transformation, the better able we are to pivot and change. And certainly, you know, I think an invitation that we're being given by the planets is to really explore what are the patterns of change? What are the skills and the mindset and the energies that we need to draw on as tools in our toolbox when we go through these major kinds of cycles of transformation, disruption, and evolution, really. So I do want to encourage you guys to at least take a moment this week and really acknowledge the skills that you already have in place that support you in being able to pivot and make change quickly. I definitely think the timeline of transformation on this planet is speeding up, and I think a lot of why it's speeding up is because of focus and where we're putting our focus and attention. And honestly, I think media speeds it up. You know, when we live in a world where media's policy of information transmission is, you know, if it bleeds, it leads, and we're conditioned to reading the bloody headlines, if you will, and that focus on that energy accelerates what we're creating. And so we can counteract that. We can counteract that by consciously drawing on a mindset and patterns that shift our focus away from that and towards what we really want to be creating. And I think that's another place where, when we're talking about collaboration, that if we're unifying our collaborative energy, focusing our attention collaboratively on a different outcome than what the media is predicting for us, and we harness enough intentional energy and enough vision and enough focus collaboratively, if enough of us are holding a vision for a world that is equitable, just, sustainable, peaceful, abundant, even though that's not the next step, it's not going to solve everything by any stretch of the imagination. We still are in the third dimension. We still got to do the work. But if we start there, the next right step reveals itself. I think that's, again, what this quarter of manifestation teaches us is, if we harness the focus, if we put our heads down and continue to keep ourselves aligned with the intentions of where we're headed, and we do it collaboratively, we come together in community of all kind and hold a vision, that the clues and the cues for the next right step to build that vision will come into focus, and we'll know what to do, as long as we don't let fear knock us off our course. And that's the big piece for us right now, is to not let the fear of what is being transmitted out into the world cause us to lose hope and cause us to lose our focus and get out of our lane, if you will, of our true creative capacity. So, all right, let's continue with the sun and the earth. Boy, it's rabbit hole day. Let's continue with the sun and the earth. And then I want to take a look at Mercury, Venus, and Mars, because they're making relationship energy really kind of weird this week too. So we start the week with the sun in the gate 7, the gate of collaboration, moving to the gate 4, the gate of possibility, on Wednesday. So the gate 7 challenges us to move our egos out of the way and to work together to serve each other. That's kind of what I've been talking about. So this powerful challenge can't be mastered if we don't trust each other. and trust that we're each holding the highest intention for each other, and trust that there's more than enough for everyone. So again, remember, this isn't ego. Ego always has at its heart this combat between me versus we, right? And that's always the fear. I mean, we see this playing out in our world right now. That's always the big fear. If I give up my personal freedom or my personal resources or whatever for the sake of the we, then I lose out, right? And what the Gate 7 and democracy says, no, you don't lose out. We all do better when we all do better. You're going to get more. You're going to grow more. You're going to have more. There's going to be more than enough if we pool our energy, if we pool our ideas, if we pool our resources. So if we are all the government, because this comes out of the identity, right, then we are all like cells in the same body. And I think this is the other piece that's so important to understand. We can't escape this, right? If the cells in the body don't collaborate and create optimal health, then the entire body suffers a crisis and faces the potential of death. This is true literally and figuratively. The evolution of humanity and the safety of the planet depends on us collaborating. If we're not leading with the egos of kings and queens through the 2145, but with a deep tribal, and we're not holding on to that deep tribal focus of me and mine, but rather we're leading with the intent to truly lift each other up, then we're careful to evaluate the impact of our choices on others. And when we join together with heart and sustain our resources, we live more in alignment with natural order. And I think, the second piece that really supports the evolution and the creation of this is that you can't go into democracy in a depleted state. That you can't bring your own enoughness to the table if you don't have enough internally, if you haven't nurtured yourself first. So that's another piece that's essential. True democracy is comprised of people who are embodying the energy of well-being to the best of their ability. So I really don't think this is pie in the sky kind of thinking. This is literally what the flow of logic in the chart is showing us as our full potential. So, if we look at the chart as a blueprint for the human story, we're deeply married to the ego and deeply married to the possibility of lack. And let's not forget that, that integrity of the ego or the will center is connected to the spleen, the fear center, and the fear that the patterns of the past will repeat themselves. We really have to break free from those patterns, and that's really the gift that the Gate 15 brings us. The Gate 15 does push us into releasing patterns and letting go. It causes us to reframe the pattern. And of course, Neptune is just shifted into the 22, or will be shifting into the 22 next week. We're moving out of the energy of the 36 pattern breaking energy, miracle breaking energy, into a state of grace through Neptune. I mean, everything is kind of pushing us towards embodying the idea that we are enough, and that even if we don't know what the next right step is, the more we embody our enoughness, the more we see the value and the enoughness of others, the more we harness that energy of enoughness together, the more we'll have the answers revealed to us. And I think that's really hopeful. It's really hopeful. And to not let the despair of the headlines of the day cause you to forget that. So the sun on Wednesday moves into the Gate 4, the gate of possibility, inspiring us with new thoughts and ideas. The Gate 4 teaches us to embrace ideas as potentials, not answers. That's an important thing to understand, because sometimes we think, I have an answer, I'm going to go act on it. And to let the power of the possibility of our ideas stimulate the imagination as a way of calibrating the emotions and the heart. So this gate teaches us the power of learning to wait, something not many of us are good at, and to see which possibility actually manifests in the physical world, and to experiment with options in response. So in other words, just because you have an idea doesn't mean it's the answer. It's just a potential. You don't have to figure out what to do with it other than take the time to entertain it. Let the world show you the next right step. All you have to do is imagine and dream and wait for the timing to be aligned and for the cues and the clues for the next right step. And in the meantime, work on your sense of enoughness, your faith, and maybe a little bit of hope. So this week, the Earth grounds us in the energy of the gate 13, the gate of the narrative. You had to know, if you've been listening to the transit reports for any length of time this year, that somewhere the theme of storytelling was going to sneak in. So here it is. The Earth grounds us in our story. We are grounded when we tell a narrative that's big enough, strong enough, juicy enough, true enough about who we really are. And we are holding ourselves true to that narrative that we've crafted for ourselves. That's all I'm going to say about storytelling this week. And on Wednesday, that Earth energy moves to the gate 49, the gate of the catalyst. You know, the Earth gives us a code for what we have to master in order to create, and live out the theme of the sun. So this week, the Earth is challenged to make sure that our personal and collective narrative is rooted in sufficiency and abundance. Same song, different verse. It's also bringing us the idea or the understanding that we can't collaborate if we think we don't have enough, or if we're afraid to share because we think we're lacking something or somehow. We're also encouraged to explore our narrative around our feelings about power and empowerment. It's hard to collaborate if you think all your efforts are going to benefit others, or if your voice isn't valued. I always go back and think about the middle school projects we used to do when they were group projects, air quotes, right? And some of you, maybe you had the same experience as me. I always did the group project and everybody else got credit for it. And it made me not really like collaborating very much. When the Earth moves into the gate 49 on Wednesday, we're cultivating the ability to sense when it's time to hold to a value that supports our value and the value of others. We're growing in our ability to inspire others to make expansive changes that embrace higher principles and deeper alignment with peace and sustainability. But first, we ourselves have to be willing to align with higher values. This isn't martyrdom, okay? This is taking the high road and doing the right thing for the greater good of the whole. Of course, that means holding to a narrative that includes all of us collaborating in an empowered way to create from a place that is aligned and has inclusive values. We don't have time for telling small stories of lack or victimhood anymore. It's imperative that we embrace the idea that we are not abundant until we are all abundant. We are not free until we're all free. We're not sustainable until we're all sustainable, and that there's more than enough to go around if we take care and share with each other. We don't win if we don't all win. I feel like I've been making this point in as many ways as possible today. I hope you're getting it. So, all right, let's go talk about sex now. All right, we're going to take a short jog through the relationship sector and the transits. This week, Mercury, Venus, and Mars are throwing down a pretty interesting series of challenges that I want to unpack for you. And I'm just going to throw down myself a small cautionary note. And I'm actually going to start with a small cautionary note first. So whenever the gate 49, the gate of the catalyst, highlighted by the Earth this week, plays into the theme of the celestial weather, we always run the risk of blowing things up. This is a gate that in traditional human design we sometimes call the divorce gate. So it's a gate that certainly can bring big change. It can bring revolutionary shifts, decisive choices, but it's an emotional gate. It's on the emotional solar plexus. And so it really does require alignment and the right timing before you act on it. It also brings sort of in the shadow, the other shadow side of it, it brings the risk of failing to take big action when it's needed. So sometimes people who have this energy defined in their chart, if you have the gate 49 defined in your chart, there's a tendency to break up and blow up relationships, in a serial way before you, and really fail to do the work of realigning the relationship to bring it into a higher state of intimacy. And also sometimes you'll see the opposite, where sometimes people with the gate 49 really, really need to make some big changes in their relationship agreements, and they don't, especially if they have an open solar plexus. They bend over backwards trying to keep everybody happy instead of making a big move that claims and proclaims their value and their values, and they settle and tolerate less than. So be mindful this week in your relationships, especially, of clarifying your own value and your own values, this energy calls for big changes, but sometimes it means rewriting the nature of our agreements in the relationships and not necessarily shutting the door and regretting it for the rest of your life. So really, really important to be deliberate in your relationships. So that being said, Mercury highlights the gate 29, the gate of devotion, moving to the gate 59, the gate of sustainability on Thursday. Venus starts the week in the gate 47, the gate of mindset, moving to the gate 6, the gate of impact on Tuesday. And Mars highlights the gate 40, the gate of restoration all week. So this interesting combination of energies encourages us to keep a positive mindset about ourselves and our partners in relationships. So, check in with yourself. Is part of what's happening in your relationship a result of your mindset? Have you gotten into a bad pattern or a rut with maybe not thinking great thoughts about your partner? And do you need to maybe shift your perspective on your partner and see them in a different light and not let the little things like the fact that they didn't wipe down the counters and they left all the cabinet doors open, become an issue for divorce? This doesn't mean tolerating less than what you deserve. It means being mindful of the places where your old conditioning or your mindset might be keeping you from seeing the possibility of being loved or cherished or valued in the way that you deserve to be. We also have this week the potential for intimacy, especially physical intimacy. But I just want to remind you, because of this weird combination of energies, that sex isn't necessarily love, and don't get confused. And that's an important reminder when the energy for commitment is playing out and all mixed up with the energy for sex. All right. So take your time this week to make the right commitments. Don't be surprised if you feel all over the place with the status of your more intimate partnerships. You might need some alone time this week. This is what Mars is telling us. And retreat to get clarity. Definitely don't get married on the second date. And take your time before you make any big decisions that might impact you for the rest of your life. Remember that sex does have life and death consequences, so be mindful of that as well. So do take good care of yourselves and have a really great week this week. And as I said, be careful, be deliberate, be conscious. Take care of your sense of worth, your sense of value. Really explore what stories you're telling about power and empowerment in every area of your life, including in your relationships. Make sure that the narrative that you're telling about your lovability and your self-worth and your value in your partnerships is being reflected in your narrative. Remember that you do absolutely and utterly deserve to be loved, to be valued, to be cherished, to be nurtured, and don't settle for less than. And also don't forget to have a little bit of fun. So that's my update for this week. Again, just a quick reminder, if you came in late or you want to see a written copy of the evolution report for the week, or you want to watch the video for the evolution report for the week, do check out my Clubhouse page, KarenCurryParker.club. And you can get access to all of those juicy resources there. Kristen, Cindy, Jamie, anything else we want to add for the week before we go?
No, I'm going to marinate in this today. That was a lot. That was good. It's a lot to integrate and contemplate and think about. So thank you.
Yeah, it is a lot. It is a lot. And, and I do really want to encourage you, too, to think about, if we chunk the year down into 3-month cycles, which is approximately what the quarters are, right? That we're entering into this 3-month cycle, and it's definitely an important cycle that is encouraging us to really look at how can we play together better in every area. And I just want to say again, I know I've said this repeatedly all day today, but I can't stress strongly enough how we have to shed all of the identities around me, mine, and lack, and really move into a narrative that is ours and us and we and expansion, because it really does work that way. And the chart shows us this so profoundly and so clearly. that the more we unify ourselves around a common direction and a common vision that is expansive and sufficient and really shines the light on the value and the preciousness of each of us, the more we put our energy there, the more we get growths. A growth that really moves us towards the fulfillment of the human potential. And I guess I'm being so cautionary because it just feels like to me the last week has just been exceptionally apocalyptic in the news headlines. And I'm not saying avoid reality, but I am saying don't let what the current reality seems to be cause you to lose connection with your faith, your hope, and the connection that I would imagine we all have with this dream of a beautiful future for all of us. So that's it. All right, you guys, I'm going to go hop on a plane. I will talk to you all next week. As I said, next week I'm going to make sure we have ample time to take your questions. I appreciate all of you and thank you all for collaborating with us to create this space here today and for being here. Have a really great week, and I will talk to you all next week.